Hello, good people of Sinai Temple. It is such a pleasure to be here, if not in person with you, just to share this with you. And I wish that I could be there in person, but I'm currently in Israel. And I really appreciate this opportunity, and I'm grateful that you decided to, take your Wednesday night to join the program. And I really hope that you enjoy. If any questions come up, I would love for you to be in touch to send them my way. You can email me at jake@sababoosh.com. I'll make sure that Amanda has contact information. I encourage you to look at our website, sababoosh.com, and to listen to my podcast, Sababoosh, which is on all different aspects of Israeli culture. We have episodes on food and music, traveling after the army, volunteering. So hopefully there would be something for everyone. And Amanda will send to you some playlists, some Spotify playlists, the songs that we're going to learn about this evening, and quite a few other songs that have come out since October 7th. Also, YouTube playlists that will have the music videos that we're going to watch. We're going to watch 6 full music videos, and I'll give some context, frame things in the beginning. We'll watch, we'll unpack the lyrics, and throughout there will be context, cultural context. I'll talk about things that are happening on the ground, how Israelis are living these moments. A little about me: I am from Pittsburgh originally, and I made aliyah 7 years ago. Currently live in Netanya with my wife and daughter, and really happy to be here with you, and I hope you enjoy.
Hi, everyone. The name of my talk is Soundtrack of Resilience: How Israeli Music is Helping a Nation Heal After October 7th. Now, we'll go over a bit of what the talk is going to cover over the next hour. We're going to get a sense of feeling the pulse of the Israeli people. How could we possibly measure the emotional reality on the ground? We'll take a look at how we get that sense. We'll look at key songs by different emotions. We'll look at 6 songs in total, songs that reflect sadness and shock. We'll look at anger, strength, and we'll also look at hope. We'll look at the curative properties of music. How can music heal? And throughout the talk, we'll go through cultural background so that you get a sense of what's happening on the ground, what do the songs mean, but also what do they tell us about Israeli culture and society. In my podcast, I interviewed author and public thinker Yossi Klein Halevi, and he gave the following quote, which was, "Our music is the essence of Israeliness." So I'd ask you throughout this talk to keep that in mind. What is it about Israeli music that is so Israeli? And during our exploration, you'll hopefully have some answers to it. So I started by saying that we're going to get a sense of the pulse of Israel, the pulse of the Israeli people. We don't have a survey that measured the average Israeli's emotional experience starting from October 7th, each week, each month, each year. But what we do have is Galgalas, which is a radio station dedicated to music. It's the army radio. It's dedicated to music. And to get a sense of just how popular it is and how many people are listening to it, how we can based on the songs that are being played, we can derive certain emotional facts on the ground. Well, it's so popular that every day 1.3 million people are listening to it. Now, in a country of about 10 million, if we were to just look at that number, that's already more than 1 out of 10. But taking into account how many people actually listen to the radio, not everyone does. A lot of people do in the car, but people often, hook up their own music. So almost 1/3 of all radio listening is Gillis, just to get a sense of how popular it is. Now, another episode of my podcast, I interviewed Achinoam Bear, who has her own show on Gillis every day, her own set hour. And she relayed a couple of things during that conversation. One was that a couple of weeks after October 7th, Achinoam's boyfriend at the time was fighting in Gaza. And when they were talking one day, he said to her, he practically begged her to stop playing sad songs. They were depressing, they were subdued, they were somber, and it wasn't doing anything for the soldiers. It was having a negative impact. So please, please play hopeful songs, upbeat songs. And after that, there was a change, and there were more upbeat songs. Another piece of that is that soldiers can listen. They were able to listen to Gillis in Gaza. So some people in Israel, family members, friends, would send messages to the soldiers. They couldn't necessarily talk to them on the phone or text them, but they were able to send these messages. Evyatar, happy birthday. Mazal tov, we love you. Another thing that she relayed, or at least the experience of that day of the interview with her, was that happened to be the day when Shiri, Ariel, and Kfir Bibas, when their remains were returned. It was a very low, sad day on the way to the studio. But after the interview, the early afternoon, the later afternoon, things became a bit more, not necessarily upbeat, but not as sad. And it reminded me of, in the Jewish tradition, in the Jewish practice of Shiva and Shloshim, the 30 days after we lose a loved one, and the year of saying Kaddish, there are these practices in place that confine mourning to a certain amount of time so as not to completely overwhelm us and take over every aspect of our lives forever. It's contained into this amount of time. So too, there's mourning for several hours after something happens, but things do start to be more uplifted. So we're going to start with the first stage. What were Israelis feeling on October 7th? Also diaspora Jews. But what were Israelis feeling? Shock. How could such a thing happen? And mourning for all of the people who were killed and all of the awful things that happened. So the sense of mourning and sadness, depression. I'll mention just two songs right now of songs that captured that early pain. One was Ze Beseder by Benaya Barabi and also some survivors from the Nova Festival. The main line is Ze Beseder, Lo Liot Beseder. It's okay to not be okay. And it was written with Nova survivors. It's performed with Nova survivors. And it basically is meant to give people who went through Nova, but also other tragedies, that it's okay not to be okay, permission to not be okay, and at the same time, permission to experience positive things. There's certainly a sense of survivor guilt that takes place, but it's okay to smile, it's okay to laugh, it's okay to sing. And the other song is Tachzor, which means return, and it's sung by Idan Reichel and Roni Delumi. And it's very much purely a longing for the hostages to come back. And that's the song that we're going to listen to now. And then we'll unpack the lyrics afterwards.
השעות היפות שלא נותנות לזמן לרוץ, הרגליים הכבדות שלא מוצאות סיבה ללכת, הימים והלילות כמו הפנים שבתמונות, הכל עוצר מלכת כשאתה לא כאן, ומתעוררת מחלום, מרגישה אותך קרוב, אז קוראת לך מתוך הלילה, רציתי שתגיע, הלוואי תבוא בלי להודיע עוד היום. אני מגדל של אור, ממרחקים ששוב תופיע, הלוואי תבוא בלי להודיע עוד היום. השעות העייפות שלא נותנות לזמן לרוץ, הרגליים הכבדות שלא מוצאות סיבה ללכת, הימים והלילות כמו הפנים שבתמונות, הכל עוצר מלכת כשאתה לא כאן, ומתעוררת מחלום, מרגישה אותך קרוב, אז קוראת לך מתוך הלילה, תחזור, תחזור היום. כל כך רציתי שתגיע, הלוואי תבוא בלי להודיע עוד היום. אני מגדל של אור, ממרחקים ששוב תופיע, הלוואי תבוא בלי להודיע עוד היום. הלוואי תבוא בלי להודיע עוד היום. אני מגדל של אור, ממרחקים ששוב תופיע, הלוואי תבוא בלי להודיע עוד היום.
So now we're going to look at the lyrics and explore what Roni Delumi meant when she was singing those words. So I'll highlight just a few points. You have the lyrics here in front of you. That first point, everything stops moving when you aren't here. That brings up the fact that after October 7th, many people describe the days after until very recently as October 456 or October 700, where time didn't really move and things were frozen on that day. Also, because October 7th was Simchat Torah, there were still Sukkot out and they weren't taken down. So you had groups going down south to the Gaza envelope and seeing on the kibbutzim sukkahs, even in November, December, January, even until recently. Waking from a dream, something so awful that it couldn't possibly have happened. But many slowly realized that it had happened. The idea of coming back without advance notice, there, with a lot of the returns of the hostages, there were a lot of logistics tied to them. In 2 months, there would be 5 hostages released. They would be released in 6 weeks. The names, we don't know the names of who will be released. There was just so much red tape, so many logistics tied up with something so sensitive and heart-wrenching. So just without notice, we need you to return. And this last point, I'm a tower of light. It doesn't suggest a passive attitude towards the hostages. We hope they'll return. We even pray that they'll return. That's a bit more active. But I'm a tower of light. There were so many people, thousands, hundreds of thousands of Israelis and Jews and other people around the world who protested, who spoke to their politicians, offering this way to bring them home. Now, we can't talk about this time without mentioning Eurovision and Eden Golan's song Hurricane, which was originally known by October Rain, but because of the Eurovision rules, the songs that are performed can't be tied to active conflicts. And certain lyrics were deemed too charged and referencing things that happened on October 7th, things that were happening in the war. So it was changed a bit. And we'll get to in just a moment what some of those changes were. Now, when I lived in America, I didn't really know what Eurovision was. I couldn't appreciate the magnitude, the influence that it has, the passion that many Israelis feel towards it. And Akiva Novik of Yediot Achronot, he has written extensively on this sense of fitting in. Eurovision offers Israelis, we feel like pariahs, we're isolated, we're rejected. But Eurovision gives us the opportunity to be a part of this group of countries, this long list of countries, some that we've gotten along with, some that we haven't. But it really, this sense of fitting in and belonging is a big part of the competition. Now, with all of the hatred from around the world towards Israel, it could have easily been assumed that Eden would have she would have come in last or very close to the bottom. People wouldn't have voted for her. But that wasn't the case. Eden finished in 5th place and even 2nd place in the popular vote, meaning if people had just a sense of anonymity, they showed love of Israel or support. So that really went against this narrative that Israelis had and also Jews around the world had. To appreciate the adversity that Eden Golan faced in Eurovision in 2024, she anticipated and her team anticipated being booed, being shouted at. So her team actually, while she rehearsed, would boo at her and shout and give her that experience so that she wouldn't be thrown off during the performance itself. And to a certainly more serious extent, her safety was threatened throughout leading up to it. She was confined to her hotel room. It was so bad that the head of the Shin Bet, or the Shabak, which is the equivalent of the Israeli FBI, had to fly to Sweden, to Malmo, Sweden, to make sure that she was safe. And it was a scary time for her. And, we all were very much hoping that she would be okay and that she was kept safe. So the security teams did a great job of keeping her safe. So I mentioned that Hurricane was originally October Rain. 2 changes that happened were, if you know the song, if you've heard the song before, we're going to listen to it, but there's a stanza, there's a verse, hours and hours empowers, life is no game, but it's ours while the time goes wild. That's how it stands in Hurricane. In October Rain, it was originally hours and hours and flowers. Now, flowers, or in Hebrew, prachim, is a slang word for fallen soldiers, meaning the flowers that are put on their grave. So that was deemed to be too charged. The other, in October Rain, the ending, sometimes singers put in their native language at the end. The original was Lo nishar avir linshom, there's no space to breathe, ein makom, no place, ein oti miyom liyom, I'm not myself now from day to day, kulam yaladim tovim echad echad, they're all good kids, every one of them. That was referencing all of the children, all the teenagers, all the young people who were killed on October 7th in Nova and otherwise. And that was also deemed very charged. So that was they took the charge away and they made it more parv, you could say. Lo tzarich milim gedolot. We don't need big words, rak tefilot, just prayers. Afilu im kashe lirot, even though it's hard to see. Tamid ata mashir li or echad katan. You're always leaving me one small light. So now we're going to listen to Eden Golan sing October Rain, the original, and she sings it. This is a version of her singing it in Kikar Chatufim, Hostage Square. in Tel Aviv. You see, there were still hostages at that point. There were family members. There were friends. It was very crowded. And she was performing October Rain there.
Writers of the history, stand with me. Look into my eyes and see. People go away but never say goodbye. Someone stole the moon tonight, took my light. Everything is black and white. Who's the fool who told you boys don't cry? Hours and hours and flowers. Life is no game for the cowards. Why? The time goes wild. Every day I'm losing my mind, holding on in this mysterious ride, dancing in the storm. We got nothing to hide. Take me home and leave the world behind. Baby, promise me that never again. I'm still wet from this October rain. October rain. Living in a fantasy, ecstasy, everything is meant to be. We shall pass, but love will never die. Hours and hours and flowers. Life is no game for the cowards. Why? The time goes wild. Every day I'm losing my mind, holding on in this mysterious ride, dancing in the storm. We got nothing to hide. Take me home and leave the world behind. Baby, promise me that never again. I'm still wet from this October rain. October rain. October rain. Baby, promise me that never again. I'm still wet from this October rain. October rain. מרגישה אפילו לנשום, אין מקום, אין אותי מיום ליום. כולם ילדים טובים אחד אחד. Bring them back home now.
So we go now from sadness, shock, grief to another emotion, one that's a bit more raw and passionate, and that is anger and rage, sometimes also a bit of revenge. But we're going to look at one song in particular that expresses this anger, and it would be, I wouldn't be able to talk about anger without talking about this song, which is Harbu Darbu, or in Arabic, it means swords from above, or raining swords and violence. And it's by the rap duo Ness and Stilla. It was given the Song of the Year award for 2024, and that's not to be taken lightly. A ton of music came out after October 7th, especially in that year after. So just a few months, just months after October 7th, Israelis voted with their ears by listening to this song so much, and it was played on the radio so much. It was listened to everywhere. So it was really, it's very much a part. It was the war anthem. It's very much a part of this time period.
חבורת עכברים פאקרים יוצאים מהמחילה, עושים אבו עליה טמבלים, וואלה מילה לא תהיה מחילה. על מי אתה חושב שאתה בעל פה צועק פלסטין בחינה? תפי, יא בני עמלק, חבלה. שמאל ימין שמאל איך כל המדינה במדים מגליל עד אילת. לוחמים לוחמות טוב לבן ומגלב קרקל ברדלס. הבאנו את כל הצבא עליכם ונשבע לא תהיה מחילה. תפי, יא בני עמלק, כל היחידות מוכנות. גולני, נחלאווי, שריון, איפה גבעתי? חיל הים, חיל האוויר, תותחנים, צנחנים. כל היחידות בצה"ל במוד לחרבו דרבו על הראש חפ. גולני, נחלאווי, שריון, איפה גבעתי? כל הלוחמות באוויר, על נזי סופק פיר. כל היחידות בצה"ל באים לחרבו דרבו על הראש להם.
אתה תחת כי זה חיל האוויר, מרגישים תחת את תל אביב. כל הבנות דופקות לחיילים בבתים, וגם הוא בחדשות פתאום נראה לי חתיך. הם צועקים עליי חינם פלסטין, אבל משום מה זה נשמע לי כמו מבצע לחגים. חצי דקה וכל המדינה במדים, במילואים, בסדיר, כולם בשביל אמא ואבא, כל החבר'ה שלי בחזית, אחת לסבתא וסבא, עושים שמות על הפגזים, לילד בעוטף עזה, גליל עליון ומרכז גם, כולם מוכנים לקטה, רפק רפק.
כל היחידות מוכנות, גולני, נחלאווי, שריון, איפה גבעתי? חיל הים, חיל האוויר, תותחנים, צנחנים. כל היחידות בצה"ל במוד לחרבו דרבו על הראש חפ. גולני, נחלאווי, שריון, איפה גבעתי? כל הלוחמות באוויר, על נזי סופק פיר. כל היחידות בצה"ל באים לחרבו דרבו על הראש להם. עוד איקס לנשק, כל קלפי ג'ומו, חבוש נפילה לחם גשם כחבות כל קלפי ג'ומו. כל מי שתכנן, כל מי שתמך, כל מי שביצע, כל מי שרצח, כל קלפי ג'ומו. הסתבכת כל קלפי ג'ומו, שמעת כל קלפי ג'ומו. נסראללה כל קלפי ג'ומו, מוחמד אף כל קלפי ג'ומו. עניה כל קלפי ג'ומו, אבו בקלאווה כל קלפי ג'ומו. בלחד איתו על איתו מהקליפה כל קלפי ג'ומו. כל היחידות בצה"ל באים לחרבו דרבו על הראש להם. וואי וואי.
So now looking at the lyrics themselves, if you look at a couple of times, the different units are called out. There's a roll call of the units. And in the US and other places, there might be familiarity with certain units. You could say the Marines or the Navy SEALs. But in Israel, pretty much everyone knows all of the names of the, at least not super elite units. Maybe some of those are more secretive and not known as well, but people know when someone says Golani or Givati, Sanchanim, which is paratroopers. It's very much there's a sense of pride for the people who have served in the units. When they hear their unit, that infuses them with more passion and with more drive, but also for everyone just to hear them. It really is a gathering of all units. And in the second verse, half a minute and the whole country is in uniform, reservists, regular service, everyone. That very much happened. Around 400,000 reservists were called up very quickly. It's not hyperbole. Very quickly, the whole country or almost the whole country, went into battle and went into their units and protected the country. And then for mom and dad, for the sense of meaning and for their sake, we need to protect them. Also, very sadly, people lost their parents. So in memory of their parents, all their friends on the front line, that would be scary for anyone really, but for an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old to have multiple friends that are on the front line and that you don't know if you're going to see them again, it was very real for a lot of people. For grandma and grandpa, also for their sake, sometimes in their memory. And to the kid who lives near Gaza, Upper Galilee, and for the center of the country as well, it's not just a matter of someone from Haifa fighting for the people of Haifa or someone from Jerusalem just representing Jerusalem. Everyone's very much fighting for the whole country. And it does give over this sense of unity that so many Israelis feel. And this last point at the very end of the song, Stilla says, everyone who planned, everyone who supported, everyone who carried out, everyone who murdered, every bad person comes for his punishment in the end, which also says every dog has his day. Everyone needs to pay. Everyone's going to get what they have coming to them. They're going to face the consequences. And then he lists out people: Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah; Mohammed Deif, who was the second in command of Hamas; Hania, one of the main leaders of Hamas. They're all pretty much taken out. And going from that anger, something connected to it is this emotion or this experience of strength and also defiance. They might be similar to anger in that they're active, they're passionate, but strength and defiance are seen more in a positive light, a productive light, if you will. And there were two songs in particular that demonstrated these qualities of strength and defiance. And the first one is Am Yisrael Chai by Eyal Golan, very popular song. If Harbu Darbu is the war anthem, then Am Yisrael Chai has been the resilience anthem or pride, Jewish pride. Something not well known is that it was released less than 2 weeks after October 7th. I hadn't heard about it for a while. It didn't really take off early on, but several months after, it started to really take off and gain popularity with its message very much like the title, Am Yisrael Chai, the nation of Israel lives. The Jewish people are still alive. The Israeli people are still alive. And we're going to get through this. We're going to be okay. The second one is Giborei Al, or Superheroes by Hatikva Sheish. And it's very much a tribute to everyday heroes. With around 400,000 people in the reserves in Miluim and a country of about 10 million, there's no doubt that people are passing people on the street every day who are in the reserves. They might see the barista at their favorite coffee shop, or a construction worker that they pass, a teacher, who all have this second life in a way. One day of the week, they might be in Gaza or Lebanon or Syria, and the next day they're back at work and they're with their families. And that's the reality for so many people. And in the song, there's also a reference to Idan Amedi, very popular Israeli singer, also an actor in Fauda, who has really become a symbol of resilience. And you will see that, and we'll get into it a bit more a little later.
אז המורה לתנ"ך בגבעתי, המורה ללשון מודיעין, השכן מלמעלה קבלן עבודות, אבל חודש כבר במילואים. עורכת הדין היא קמבצית, עושה משמרות באוגדה. אחיה איש הייטק בכיר, עכשיו הוא צלף על גגות ברצועה. מנהלת הסניף הקשוחה של הבנק היא סמג"ד ביהודה ושומרון. דורון הוא בעל חנות צעצועים, עכשיו הוא מ"פ בשריון. והמדי שלנו כפרה, שלרוב מזמר בקיסריה, הוא לוחם הנדסה, מתאושש בגבורה, אחרי שנפצע בלב עזה. נכון כולם נראים רגילים, אבל אנחנו עם של גיבורי על, בכל אחד תמיד מסתתר חייל, מוכן להציל את העולם. יש תנהג אוטובוס של דן, זה שתמיד עומד בזמן, הוא עכשיו מפקד סוללת תותחנים בדרום ליד נרעם. יש סטודנט בטכניון באמצע תואר ראשון, הוא סרן במיל בעוצבת הגליל, כבר חודש בגבול הצפון. יש פה דוגמנית פרמדיקית, יש פה חשמלאי שהוא מגיסט, יש את יוני נגן סקסופון מחונן שהוא קודם כל מטקליסט. יש לכולם ארון נסתר או ארגז גדול מאובזר, יש פה סט של מדים וגלימת מילואים מוכנות תמיד לאתגר. נכון כולם נראים רגילים, אבל אנחנו עם של גיבורי על, בכל אחד תמיד מסתתר חייל, מוכן להציל את העולם. וזה לא משנה אם באמצע חיים או באמצע משחק כדורגל, כולם יעזבו את הכל בשנייה אם יקרא להם הדגל. פה זה לא יקום מקביל, לא מציאות של מרוול, זה הסיפור שלנו, עם ישראל, זה הסיפור שלנו. נכון כולם נראים רגילים, אבל אנחנו עם של גיבורי על, בכל אחד תמיד מסתתר חייל, מוכן להציל את העולם.
Highlighting a few lines from this song, I mentioned before Idan Amedi, so there's the part in our beloved Amedi, who usually sings in Caesarea. He was badly wounded, and it was a big deal when he went into reserves. A lot of well-known people in the arts and in sports don't necessarily have to be in the reserves, but he was, and he went very proudly, and he was injured, and he's since fully recovered, and we'll get a bit more into that. But for him to be called out here, it was, a very central piece. Everyone basically knew that he was serving and that he got injured. And the next part, and it doesn't matter if we're in the middle of living life or in the middle of a soccer game, everyone will drop everything in a second if the flag calls out to them. It's pretty extreme language, but it's true. I mean, after October 7th, people generally didn't try to leave Israel, but hundreds of thousands of people came back. They did drop everything. They were studying abroad, they were living abroad, they were traveling after the army in the jungle, some people, and they came back to defend Israel and to make sure that everything and everyone was okay. This is not a parallel universe. It's not a Marvel reality, meaning it's very much real, and there are real superheroes here, and this is our story, the nation of Israel. So there are a lot of aspects of this talk, and also the emotions that were very alive and in Israel since October 7th. Something that might not be mentioned as much is that some people left Israel. Some Israelis felt like it was too much. They were overwhelmed. They wanted to protect their kids, and they left. There are different numbers as to how many people left, but there were people who left, and there's still people today who are trying to decide if they should leave, discussing with their family, with their friends. So we're going to look at a popular example of someone who has thought a lot about leaving, and that is the rapper Jimbo J. And Jimbo J is from the Gaza envelope, from Otef Aza. He was evacuated during the war. He just recently went back to his home there, and this song really tells that story of him and his family wondering if they should stay or go. So this is what Jimbo J said about the song that we're about to listen to, the video we're going to watch. White Sail, the song is Mifras Lavan, is the first song I've written since October 7th, and I think it contains the beginning of an answer to the question I've been asked the most since I returned home to the Otef, the Gaza envelope. What's it like to live there now? It's a song about the reality that's emerging in front of me these days, about question marks I never thought I'd have, and about faith and hope that grow out of having no choice. It documents the family and me after returning home, the new reality that we see here from the window, and the unusual routine with the band at concerts and on the road. So we're going to see all of that.
תגידי לי, כדאי לי להביא ילדים? כדאי לי ללבוש את המדים? דוקטור, תגידי לי מתי החיים הכל כך קלים שלי נהיו כל כך כבדים? 1 עבר לתאילנד ברפורמה, 2 בקורונה, 3 הודיעו תאילנד עכשיו. ההוא כמו תקליט שבור, ממלמל במרמור, המצב. רק אני קניתי 6, אוזניות מצית ומטריה, יש לי חצי שיר בראש, אין לי תוכנית מגירה. 1 לכמה זמן אני רואה מפרס לבן מציץ מבעד לענן אפור, רוח שערה לוחשת אין לך ברירה, אתה תטבע עד שתלמד לשחות. יד 1 ספר, יד 1 שטגן, יד 1 הגה, יד 1 וואטסאפ, עדיין כאן יורה לכל הכיוונים. יד 1 שייסר, יד 1 סלקל, יד 1 מילא, יד 1 דווקא, עם יד על הלב, אני עדיין מאמין, אני עדיין מאמין, אני עדיין מאמין. שני שכנים קנו אקדח, השלטים של אילוז התקלפו, שמעתי תקלים שורקים מהמטווח, לאן הברווזים עפים כשהאגם קפוא. פתחו פה סניף של קרפור, על הגר קום על הגר כאילו לא קרה כלום, במחלקת הדגים נסחפו בגל החור, שחרו עם הזרם, נפלו ברשת, עלו על הגריל ונשרפו. פריירים שהתחלפו, עולים עמדה במקום מאבטחים שהתעייפו, חיילים מחזור ראשון, נשתה לחיים מקונטיינר פטל, לחיי תחושת הניצחון. 1 לכמה זמן אני רואה מפרס לבן מציץ מבעד לענן אפור, רוח שערה צועקת אין לך ברירה, אתה תטבע עד שתלמד לשחות. יד 1 ספר, יד 1 שטגן, יד 1 הגה, יד 1 וואטסאפ, עדיין כאן יורה לכל הכיוונים. יד 1 שייסר, יד 1 סלקל, יד 1 מילא, יד 1 דווקא, עם יד על הלב, אני עדיין מאמין, אני עדיין מאמין. תגיד לי מי לא יספר עכשיו את הסיפור הזה בעל פה, הסיפור על עם הנצח, על הטבח, על תלנה, על המזח, על תרבות הבצע, עגל הזהב, הפצע הפתוח, מי לא יספר את הסיפור על המחדל והגבורה, השואל והדבורה, מנהלת התקומה והשואה, המשל על מחירי טיסת אלעל והעין העקומה. מי לא יפאר את הסיפור על מסע קומתה, על השחיטה, ארון עטוף בדגל המדינה, על גל שירים של אבל וקריאות שמה, סבתא היית דור ראשון, עכשיו גם הילדה שתמלל את הסיפור על השבת, אחת, על מלחמת הדת ועל שמחת התורה ועל שנאת החינם, על הילד שאף פעם לא קרא בין השורות של הוראות שנכתבו בדם. יד אחת ספר, יד אחת שטגן, יד אחת הגה, יד אחת וואטסאפ, עדיין כאן, יורה לכל הכיוונים. יד אחת צ'ייסר, יד אחת סלקה, יד אחת הגה, יד אחת רמב"ם, עם יד על הלב, אני עדיין מאמין, אני עדיין מאמין.
So in this, Jimbo J is really exploring these feelings. Should he stay? Should he go? What would it mean to leave? So he starts with, tell me, should I have children? To bring up children in this country, in this reality? Should I wear my uniform? Should I even fight for it? He has friends who left for other reasons in the judicial reform and during Corona, during COVID. So, and other people who have been announcing now that they're going to leave. But he says that he sees a white sail, and a white sail is a sign of hope. It's a throwback to, in 1973, the song Lu Yehi, which also mentioned a white sail, and it was after the Yom Kippur War. And there's this sense now that there is hope, even though great tragedy has happened. There's still hope in the distance. And this line, "You'll drown until you learn to swim," very much a reality here. There's so much happening, and you're going to make mistakes, but you'll come out of them. In order to learn to survive, you have to go through challenges. And then this list of, you might have noticed, "à la guerre comme à la guerre," that's French for all's fair in love and war. This sense of victory. Sometimes people are slaves in a way to this idea of victory, and Jimbo J is calling attention to that. And just two soldiers who just started, always striving for victory. And this long list of things from the history of the Jewish people, from the history of Israel, he's really calling into this discussion the nation and the Jewish people. We've been through so much over the years. If he leaves, or if everyone leaves, who's going to tell these stories? We share such a rich history that it would be abandoning so much to leave. So many things have happened, good and bad. He doesn't stay away from the bad, but he still believes. And that's a refrain that he says again and again, that he still believes. And we're going to go from that anger and then strength, and then this weighing of options. Should someone leave? Should someone stay? And we're going to move into a positive area, which is hope. And thankfully, hopeful songs have been the majority of songs that have come from Israeli artists since October 7th. Now, I don't just say that loosely. I looked at 100 songs that are well known, 100 songs that have come out since October 7th, and categorized them into mourning and sadness, shock, into anger, into strength, into hope. And hope very much came out on top. 56 out of the 100 they focused on hope. Now, there's this narrative from some who don't like Israel that the music after October 7th was angry and vengeful and hate-filled. And there were songs like that, but it certainly wasn't the majority of the music that came out. It was a small piece. And then, of course, there were a lot of sad songs, but hope dominated. And anger and sadness both are directed towards the past and even the present. What has happened to us, what is happening, but hope is very future focused. And I'm reminded of an idea from Rabbi Sachs, Zichrono Livracha, that Judaism is a very future focused religion. We're looking to build a better future. So too that exists for Israelis, that hope. These terrible things have happened, and it's really not easy, but there is a belief, there is a hope that things will get better, that we'll be okay. So I mentioned earlier a couple of times Idan Amedi, and Idan Amedi has really emerged as the symbol of resilience in Israel. He's beloved. He's a well-known singer, an actor in Fauda. He was injured. Part of that injury, he couldn't play guitar. He hurt his fingers. So a musician without guitar couldn't play music. He wasn't really himself. But over months and months of being in the hospital, of rehab, getting to a point where he felt like himself and that he could even leave the hospital, he returned to music, and he even released an album called Superman, which is about him in some ways, but also about the Israelis who are fighting. Now, after all of this, he actually returned to reserve duty after having been injured. He returned. He certainly didn't have to, but he went back, and not just for any mission. He was actually a part of Operation Braveheart, which was the operation to bring back Ron Gavili's remains. So he was very much a part of this story, and this story of resilience. So for this last song, it's a hopeful one. It's heartwarming in a way. For me, it acts as a salve. It's about the future, and that there will be a future, and that we've been through a lot. It also tells the story of Israel, that it's a complicated place with things, opposites often existing together and interacting, and there being tension. The main idea from the song, though, is that in the desert, even if it takes 40 years, there will still be life. So it's calling back to the idea in the Torah of the Jewish people being in the desert for 40 years before entering the promised land, before entering Israel. So even in a place where it doesn't seem that there's hope, even if it takes a long time, there is still a future. There is still what to be excited for and to work for.
ארץ זבת חלב ודבש וחדשות, ארץ יום שקט יום קרב, היפסטר ורע, חולות וזהב. ארץ יש בה גם ים וים של חרדות, ארץ הפועל ביתה, העיר והכפר, מסגד ומנזר. ועוד מבראשית הופכים כל כאב לשיר, אבל אהבה נפשי גם כשקשה עוד יהיו חיים. אחרי כל הימים הרעים עוד נתרכך, אחרי כל הקשיים במדבר, גם אם ייקח 40 שנה עוד יהיו חיים. עוד נחבר שוב את כל הקרעים, זמן ירפא לנו את הפצעים במדבר, גם אם ייקח 40 שנה עוד יהיו חיים. ארץ זבת חלב בדבש ומלחמות, ארץ שמאל וימין, ג'חנון חמין, גזע ומין. כמה דרמות קצת נחת, קצת חיים. אחרי כל הימים הרעים, עוד נתרכך אחרי כל הקשיים. במדבר גם אם ייקח 40 שנה, עוד יהיו חיים. עוד נחבר שוב את כל הקרעים, זמן ירפא לנו את הפצעים. במדבר גם אם ייקח 40 שנה, ועוד מבראשית הופכים כל כאב לשיר. אבל אהבה נפשי גם כשקשה, עוד יהיו חיים. אחרי כל הימים הרעים, עוד נתרכך אחרי כל הקשיים. במדבר גם אם ייקח 40 שנה, עוד יהיו חיים. עוד נחבר שוב את כל הקרעים, זמן ירפא לנו את הפצעים. במדבר גם אם ייקח 40 שנה, ארץ הותר לפרסום, דקה דומיה, ניפול ונקום.
From that hope and from that sense of there being a future and us working towards it, an ongoing process that has existed that started more than 2 years ago has been this healing process. And a group of people who have been so instrumental in being a part of this healing, that group is singers and musicians. Throughout the war, musicians have traveled to shivas, to hospitals, army bases, bomb shelters. This picture shows Benaya Barabi, a singer who we mentioned Zebeseder from earlier on. He sings that song. He's visiting an injured soldier. An especially touching example of that singer as first responder quality was there was a soldier who was killed in Gaza, and his father and him really liked the Shairibo song Halev Sheli, My Heart. And whenever the son would call the father, that song would be the ringtone. And Isharibo heard about that, and he came and he performed it at the Shiva for the father, for the mother, for the family. And it was especially moving. You know, they were overwhelmed by it, and it seemed like an important part even of the grieving process, or of them remembering him. Another role that music has had, not just in the healing process, but in the survival process, in the motivation and the strength that several, if not many, hostages have spoken about how music has kept them going. Whether they were in Gaza or in the tunnels in Gaza, they held on to certain songs. They would hum, they would sing, they would think about. Some hostages were even able to listen to Galgalat, so they were able to hear some of their favorite songs or hear new songs. But it was really important for them. And many hostages actually spoke about a song or a few songs that were especially helpful to them, and then the singers who sing those songs responded. In addition to the music, many hostages also held on to different prayers, from Shema to Shalom Aleichem, that was sung by one in Arabic. Keith Siegel talks about saying Hamotzi every day, and that really tying him to his Jewish identity. And below we have Alon Ohel, who has the eye patch, and he was while he was a hostage, it was talked a lot about how he loves music and plays piano, and we were all hoping that he would come back and play the piano again. So here he is singing, he's playing piano with the cast of Eretz Nehederet, which is similar to Saturday Night Live. It says in the yellow, alone, you're not alone. He even performed with a large group of well-known Israeli singers recently at a big venue. And hopefully he'll continue to perform and be a part of the musical world. So calling back to that original quote by Yossi Klein Halevi, that music is the essence of our Israeliness, that Israeli music is very Israeli. What does that mean? What does he mean, or what do I take from it? Now, I hope that you have answers that you've been thinking about. One is that Israeli music, as we learned about the prominence of hope in the songs, is that it's future focused. It's not dwelling too much on the past or the present, but building a bright future. And there are songs that are sad or angry and focus on things that have happened, but the large majority is not, and it's focused on this future and this bright future. It's also complicated, and sometimes it has different truths and emotions, and they can all exist at once in the same song. And that's true about the country as well, with lots of things sometimes that contradict each other existing at once. It has many Jewish influences. We have a great shared history. It often references things from Jewish history. That's a big part of songs for religious singers and also for singers who aren't religious, still very much knowledgeable and know about certain ideas. And some of it can have a sabr quality. It's spiky on the outside, but it's sweet on the inside. Some rap songs in particular, hip hop, it seems edgy and harsh, but if you look at the lyrics, not Harbu Darbu, but some other songs, there's a sweetness there. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen.